For us, please.
I will. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioners, have you had a chance to look over the agenda?
Yes, ma'am.
Does somebody want to move to adopt it?
I'll make the motion to adopt the agenda.
Second? Everyone in favor of adopting the agenda?
Aye.
The agenda is, I'm pretty sure I heard you all say aye. The agenda is adopted. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes from the meeting held June 21st, 2022?
Yes, ma'am.
Any comments or anything you'd like to say about them?
Excellent. It was very good. I didn't find a thing in it wrong.
Someone want to make a motion to adopt those minutes from the meeting held June 21st, 2022?
I'll make a motion to adopt.
Everyone in favor of approving the minutes of the meeting held June 21st, 2022?
Aye.
Everyone not in favor? Minutes are approved. Now we have a public comment period for items not on the agenda. Do we have anybody, you guys know of anything? Okay. So we have a public hearing on a request by Balzer and Associates, agent for Roster LLC, to amend an approved planned unit development known as Waynesboro Place at Windy Grove Drive, Waynesboro, Virginia. City tax map numbers I think that's a 51-20-1-1 and 51-20-1-2 and 51-20-2-1 and 62-8-3-2 and 61-2-3-1. And so.
Hi, good evening. So the first public hearing on your agenda this evening is a request to amend an approved planned unit development, so known as Waynesboro Place. It's located at Windy Grove Drive. While the existing PUD includes several tax map parcels that we just heard, the requested change to add an additional permitted use only applies to one particular tax map parcel. It's to the south of Windy Grove Drive and then directly north of Interstate 64. To orient you to the project, on the map to the right, you can see a red circle. It's in between the two I-64 markers, and that red circle encompasses that parcel of request. And then on the map to the left, you can see the parcel as outlined, and it's south of Windy Grove Drive. You can see Alston Court comes down and connects into Windy Grove Drive, kind of at the beginning of the parcel. And then obviously Windy Grove Drive intersects with Rosser Avenue, not far from the I-64 off-bound ramp. The proposed amendment includes the addition of hotels, motels as a permitted use in Block 2. So Block 2 is currently approved for a variety of commercial uses. It's currently approved for amusement and recreation, retail, grocery store, offices, repair and services, and also drugstores, among many others. So the original plan unit development was approved in 2010, and at the time a traffic impact study was completed that phased that project based on average daily trips associated with the different blocks of the development. And there were proposed improvements, roadway improvements, associated with each of those phases. And then in 2017, the plan unit development was amended, and there was a portion of Block 2 that was reallocated to Block 3 for additional apartment development. And I'm actually going to skip to the end quickly to show you kind of the block phasing plan. So Block 2 in orange is the one that we're specifically talking about with the added motel hotel use. So in 2017, when a section of Block 2 was incorporated into Block 3 for additional apartment development, the proffers from the original application were reviewed, and the current Phase 1 of the plan unit development is approved for a maximum of 3,782 trips. And then a proffer from that original traffic impact study stated that if those roadway improvements, either in Phase 1 or in Phase 2, were not completed by 2015, then anything that was not developed and associated with that phase, they would not be able to get building permits for until a new traffic impact analysis was submitted. Now, excuse me, I'm going to skip back through. So the current PUD Phase 1 is approved for the 3,782 trips, and there is a breakdown of those trips that was included in your packets. This just shows an image of the property. The surrounding uses, the properties between the Home Depot and the existing Windy Grove apartments. To the north, you have the Brandon Circle townhomes. Other uses along Windy Grove include other restaurants and hotel uses, and also an existing single-family residential neighborhood to the north. The current zoning, so the property is currently zoned as a PUD with allowable retail uses. The adjacent property is zoned highway business, RS12. You have some RG5 and then light industrial across the interstate to the south. So the comprehensive plan designates the area, has that black arrow pointing to it, for commercial retail and high-density residential development, so in keeping with that planned unit development. So staff does feel that the request is in keeping with the future land use map. So Phase 1, estimated transportation densities. So this was updated to include a proposed 90-room hotel use. And so you can see that the 90-room hotel would generate approximately 432 average daily trips. So with the existing and proposed apartments and the proposed hotel use, and then also trips associated with general and medical offices, the development falls closely within the 3,782 trips allowed for Phase 1 at 3,722. And this just kind of goes back to the phasing plan. And so specifically, really the only amendment is that Block 2 would now allow for a hotel motel use where it isn't currently an approved use in the list of commercial uses that are approved. That's all I have, unless you have any questions for me.
With Block 1, which has not been developed, when it is developed, will that require, will that exceed the number of trips that are allowed now?
So the trips that are being proposed in these maps are really conceptual. And so at site plan stage, that would be the time that we would be tallying up those trips. But yes, anything that would go over 3,782 would trigger for the city to say a new traffic impact analysis needs to be conducted to see what improvements now would fall within that, because the original had a Phase 1 at 3,782, and then a whole second list of roadway improvements that would be needed if you went up to, I think it was 8,000 or so average daily trips. But that was an old study done in 2010, and because those roadway improvements did not get completed by 2015, then yes, anything over 3,782 trips. So I guess it, the answer to your question depends. If something developed in Block 1 and they were still below that trip generation, then that would be okay, but that is really the maximum daily trips unless a new
60
study.
Trips.
Right.
That's the thing, they don't have much
Yes.
room to.
Yes, and this is also conceptual numbers, so if things were updated or, the hotel motel is being added as a potential use, but they still have other uses that are approved under Block 2. So if, for some reason, a hotel motel isn't constructed in one of those other retail uses, we would always be going back to look at, where is the traffic generation? How does it fit into 3,782 trips?
Now, I also understood in looking at that we do have the Public Works says that there's enough water capacity, but I think they were asking that they be allowed to approve, and the concern there had to do with fire flow and possible upgrades or repairs to the system.
Sure, and I know that there is some water modeling that Public Works is working on, but yes, as at a site plan stage, any use that came in goes to Public Works for comments and input, and they would be able to approve and certainly have to meet any required ordinances. So the approval of the rezoning doesn't preclude anyone's requirement from meeting all of those site plan stage requirements and comments from the city.
Okay. Any comments, commissioners?
I do have 3 comment letters that were received, so I'm happy to do those at the end after anyone here speaks, or in the beginning, however you'd like to, once you open
Well,
the public hearing.
if you don't mind, we can do them at the beginning, and then you don't have to get up again.
Okay, sure.
So, but I just need to open the I need to open the public hearing. So, I'm going to open the public hearing on a request by Balzer and Associates, Inc., agent for Rosser Avenue LLC, to amend an approved planned unit development known as Waynesboro Place at Windy Grove Drive, Waynesboro, Virginia, city tax map numbers 5121-1, 5121-2, 5120-1, 62832, and 61231. Okay, so if you want to go ahead and share your comments.
Well, I think the applicants here, maybe we should let them go ahead and speak
Oh, okay,
first,
okay,
and then I
sorry.
can do them before.
You can do them at the end.
Wasn't
Sorry
really
about
thinking
that.
about that procedurally.
Okay, if the applicant wants to approach the podium, you can just give your name and address, please.
Ray Burkholder, Balzer and Associates, 104 Industry Way, Stanton, Virginia. Leslie, good job on that. I know Leslie's new in this role, and there was a lot of history to go through, so I appreciate that. And sorry for the long application. It's a pretty simple request, but as we've amended this, we've tried to keep the whole thing fresh. So some of the changes that started this process with Luke, some of those other little edits in red were really just kind of updates due to y'all changing your ordinance and just this being in alignment with it. So just to clarify that. I also wanted to just, if you were to look back at the old report, you'll see what improvements were made. So there were some significant improvements already made at the intersection in the phase 1 for traffic. So that permitted us to get to the 3,782 trips. In addition, the general office and medical, those are just hypothetical still. So those haven't been built yet. So we're not, Public Works asked us to see what could be put in to get it to that level. So again, those are hypothetical trips. So we're not, right there at that 60 today.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Potentially at 60.
Yeah, it's
supposed to
just
actually, yeah.
trying to show them something there. So they're asking for those. So that's why that report was generated. I did want to just speak to this because originally the developers of this project owned another hotel in Windy Grove and wanted to preclude any other hotels from coming in. So that's why that was never a part of it originally. Now they're going to develop a second hotel. So that's why we're before you today to ask for that request. We are looking to put it next to the interstate beside Home Depot. So if you were to go back to the block 2, it's, furthest away from anyone else. So it'd be down where the plus and minus side of block 2 would be toward the interstate. So that's what we're preparing if we get approval. So
Okay.
any questions?
Did I see something in there that you might increase the number of rooms in the hotel to 100?
We may. I don't have a final plan. We don't have, it'll have to fall within, again, when we go to do that site plan, we'll update numbers for planning and then we'll back out some medical and office or whatever. So again, that number just keeps adjusting every time we have a formal plan that we can plug in. Does that make sense?
You're going to stay under the number, whatever you do, of,
Or we've got to update the traffic study. So yeah, I have no idea what's going to come in 2 years from now that could throw us over that. So
Right.
any other questions?
What would happen if you do add something that'll go beyond the 60, if that happens in the near future? what kind of improvements would you have to make to the roadways?
We'll have to engage a traffic engineer and go through another study
Oh,
to figure that out.
Okay.
So there's been significant growth with what's happening now in the corridor there. So I couldn't say, but that's what we'll have to determine.
Okay.
What is your estimated date of completion for this block or this phase of the development? It's been.
If you can tell me what the
quite a
economy is going to
while.
do the next 10 years, I'll give you an answer.
But in your mind, do you have a projected date that?
I can speak to the hotel. It may happen the next 3 years.
Okay. And was that, you already shared what the motivation was to, part of the motivation to add motels and hotels to this list as well of uses, but did they take into consideration the slowed down retail mindset in the U.S. right now?
Well, that certainly has played a part in the whole development, because when we planned this, again, we were working on this in '08, really before everything crashed. And again, this was before Zeus was built, so we had another theater partner lined up, and there was a lot more at play then. JCPenney's was looking to move from Stanton here. I mean, there's all kinds of things. All that's has changed. So we're just in a different place in a retail world, with where things are moving, and who knows where it'll go next. But we do see some demand for office. We're kind of waiting for that first one to kind of go there in block 1, and then I think we'll start to see more of them. Those are smaller in nature to try to be more accommodating as far as the scale of the structures with the residences there. The rest of block 2, again, I don't know what we'll see.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Yep.
Okay, now, I think you've had to sign, did you actually sign your name? If you want to approach the podium about this, you need to come to the podium and say your name and address.
Yes, I'm Bruce Wiseman. I live 501 Brandon Circle. So I'm right across the street from the Home Depot. I've only been living there for about 3-4 months, but it's a lot of traffic goes up and down that road, and they go really fast. You can park on both sides of the road, right where the Outback is, and it's tight through there. So to me, it's already enough traffic through there already. And the Ashton Court is a cutoff. Instead of people going all the way down to the stoplight where the lad is, people cut through there. I mean, it's just a lot of traffic there. So I'm not really in favor of it.
Okay, thank you very much. And Leslie, if you want to share your comments.
Sure, I'll read the others that we received. So the rezoning and development plans for Waynesboro Place have come to our attention. As adjoining property owners, we are very concerned about the changes this will bring. Traffic at the light on Windy Grove Drive and Rosser Avenue is a huge concern, as only 3 to 4 cars can proceed per light cycle. We are also concerned about high traffic and pedestrian volume, as well as sound and light pollution. We are already experiencing a spike in crime in our neighborhood, as well as excessive noise from the existing restaurants. Please consider those who have made this neighborhood their home. Sincerely, Dan and Emily Babish. The next one is from Michael and Kimberly Zelina. So as a resident of Alston Court, we have witnessed the continued growth of residential multifamily units and businesses, expansion of Antigua, and the construction of a new hotel, which has produced an incremental increase in the number of vehicles along the Windy Grove Drive and Alston Court roadways. We do not expect the rezoning to be denied. The bigger issue is the additional traffic and congestion it will cause. Many of the residents in this neighborhood walk the area daily. Safety is a concern for the pedestrians and their pets, as we already have many speeding cars. The police have been contacted, and a mobile radar unit was placed on Alston Court for approximately 2 weeks. This helped for that time period, and now cars are speeding again. Cars are rolling through the stop sign at the corner of Chatham Road and Alston Court. We can see this when sitting at our dining room table. We've witnessed cars frequently not stopping at the corner of Alston Court, Windy Grove Drive while we were walking. One simple suggestion would be 3-way stop signs at the intersections of Chatham Road, Alston Court, and Alston Court, Windy Grove Drive. Additionally, we know there are speed bumps on Featherstone Drive in Augusta County, which is a public road. Installing speed bumps on Alston Court and Windy Grove Drive would definitely slow down traffic. Previously, Hollins and Alston were blocked and not through streets. Why is Hollins blocked off and Alston is now open to public? There is only one enter and exit into the apartments. If Hollins was open, this would help alleviate some of the traffic that has to enter and exit on Windy Grove. We are expressing our concerns not to prevent the rezoning, but to request that the Planning Commission and the Zoning Board acknowledge there are safety issues that need to be addressed. And then the last one is from William Radigan, the president of the Brandon Circle Townhouse Owners Association. So the residents of that association would like you to consider their concerns. At present, in the immediate Windy Grove Drive, Rosser Avenue area, there are 6 hotels with a 7th in construction, already a heavily trafficked area. This additional newcomer will make it even busier, and the Rosser, Windy Grove, Lou DeWitt intersection is already a nightmare and will bring more transient activity as well. Traffic from this busy intersection, plus the restaurants and the big box store on Windy Grove Drive, have already increased the traffic on Alston Court, which crosses our townhouse association and ends in Windy Grove Drive, causing concern about entering and exiting driveways on Alston Court and speeds which local drivers are driving to cut through the neighborhood to get to the stores and restaurants. Residents wonder about the effect of such a busy roadway on our property values. Parking on Windy Grove Drive near the Windy Grove Apartments, with residents there and their visitors seeking parking, and near the Home Depot, the restaurants and other hotels directly on that road, is already a problem, especially on busy evenings and weekends. If sufficient arrangements for plenty of additional parking in the area is not considered, this could just be an area looking for more accidents and troubles. We respectfully ask the Planning Commission to consider using this important piece of property for other uses, such as more family homes or other types of housing, or some kind of public service for this end of town, such as a second fire station for our city as it continues to grow and spread. So those are the 3 public comments we received.
Okay, thank you. Now I'm going to close the public hearing. So let's talk about this. Oh, did you, I'm sorry.
I saw the sheet to speak. I thought y'all called the people.
Oh, I did call them. I'm going to open the public hearing again. So you can come up and speak. I'm sorry. I thought I asked for people to speak and I didn't.
Sorry, I thought they were going to call the names. So you're supposed to sign back there,
Oh, sorry about
I
that.
thought. Anyway, my name is William Wells. I live on Alston Court, and I'm one of Ms. Zelina's neighbors. I agree with what she said. But one of the things that the pictures didn't show was Windy Grove Street, when it goes down, presently, people park on both sides. And there's no other way for emergency vehicles to get in and out except through that one way. And the other, I was told that about a week or 2 ago, they had an accident. Somebody ran into one of the cars that was parked on the side, and it took them 2 hours to get the traffic moving again in there. If they had a medical emergency or something in there, there's no other way for people to get out. And I don't know if the city would be responsible for that or what, but you might want to consider what they were talking about, opening Hollins Road, even from an emergency standpoint, and maybe even make it the cost of one of the projects to put a city coded street in there to allow traffic to go in and out down at the other end. And that was my main concern. Thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you very much. Sorry for my misstep. I'm going to reclose the public hearing, unless anyone else wants to speak. Okay, now, thoughts?
Am I mistaken, but isn't there already a study underway for a second firehouse on the west end?
I believe so. So I think that was just a general comment they had about what they potentially would like to see in that block. So I think it was just something that they were hoping they could put into their comments for this request, but.
If I understand, it already exists. It's at the Hyundai, or whatever one of the car dealerships out there. They're in the back. Now, they obviously will build something eventually, but it's already out there.
Okay. And I thought there was a study on the way to redesign that intersection at Rosser and Windy Grove that was associated with the Bojangles and the Chick-fil-A, Chipotle and all that. Unless I'm remembering something Luke said differently.
So I know that there was a signal timing study
Yeah.
all along Rosser Avenue that dealt with several intersections. And that was a smart scale application.
Okay.
I looked back at that today, and I don't think it specifically addresses this intersection, but several of the ones along Rosser, and it was signal timing and trying to coordinate signal timing. There are also some access management things associated with that smart scale project. The smart scale project, as I'm sure you're aware, once funding is secured, it's often 6 years out before the project actually goes through. So certainly there are improvements planned, proposed, and funded along the corridor, but nothing that's planned in the immediate future.
Is there any opportunity, or has there been any thought to even expand lanes just to allow more efficient flow-through traffic in either one of those areas, either there at, what is it, the street that goes by Brandon Ladd, plus Windy Grove? Is there a way, or even to have an additional access? I mean, it looks like it's pretty congested now. I'm not sure if there's any.
So I do know that, VDOT does potential for safety improvement intersections and has a lot of data associated with it. So the city is able to kind of see what are the intersections that do have a significant number of crashes, and this is one of those. There are funding opportunities that the city has through several different mechanisms, whether it be Smart Scale, HSIP, which is another safety-related program. So several different funding opportunities that the city can pursue related to the intersections. But as far as something more specific, when you're asking about, or am I aware of specific, abilities for lanes, or until a more, either an additional traffic impact analysis was done specifically for this development, or some area study that either the city undertook or, say, the Stanton Augusta Waynesboro MPO undertook regionally. But I don't know of anything specific. But there are funding opportunities out there for safety improvements. What those look like at this location, I'm not exactly sure.
And this is really something that, almost like a little side issue, but, the speed through there is about 45 miles an hour all through that area. And I'm really surprised with that it's that speed. I know we want to move traffic through Rosser, but it goes 45 and then 35, but 45 seems pretty an excessive speed, and that's a side issue. Not anything we can really do, but maybe that someone from either the Safety Commission would look at, because I think that that may help some of the accident issues possibly in that area. It seems pretty excessive to have that many, commercial buildings now with the new restaurants coming in, and I guess there could be some additional things that go in there. That maybe could be a consideration, and that's not going to totally, resolve the issues that some of the issues have been brought up, but that's something that it seems like could help.
And so they can do lots of things by right as it's currently zoned, right?
Yeah, so, the way that the traffic impact analysis, it was completed in 2010, and there were a list of improvements that had to be completed for them to get to 3,782 trips, and then another list that would have to be completed for beyond that. So yes, there could be potentially higher traffic generating uses than a hotel motel.
Right.
So I know that's frustrating, and that, yes, there may still be traffic concerns, but even if the hotel motel was not to be included as a permitted use, the way that the proffer was written in 2010 and then interpreted in 2017 was that since the Phase 1 improvements had been completed, they had the ability to develop up to the traffic numbers in Phase 1, but anything beyond that, since they didn't meet that 2015 deadline, would require a new traffic study. So I'm not a lawyer, and I haven't looked into all of that in detail, but that is the way that the proffer was written and that it was
Then
interpreted in 2017.
Any other?
Was there ever a revenue study done for the proposed hotel plus the other one? Because with the proximity to UVA and JMU, I almost guarantee you they're gonna be packed in May every year once they say they gonna open.
Yeah, there was no study that the applicant submitted to us, but certainly they're just kind of going off the market and what they're seeing in terms of what individuals are interested in buying and what they're interested in marketing property as.
So,
I think there's a common thread with the comments from the citizens, and that is that they're all concerned not, and none of them are against necessarily the development, but the common thread is the health, safety, and welfare of that area of town, and I think that that has to be, that's where we sit, in that that needs to be our highest priority as well, in that something has to happen now before that is developed to ensure that people can walk safely and live safely in those areas now. It's not even when more development comes, it's they're highlighting concerns that we haven't known before, and we need to address that in a very efficient way. It's not right that they're parking on both sides of the street there. That has to change. That could be done with simple signage, if we make some changes to that and just not allow people to do that. There has to be a way to get emergency vehicles in and out of that space. There has to be. That's not healthful for our city.
In response to that, we can make a recommendation to City Council with regard to the speed and the parking on Windy Grove. And that may be an appropriate, obviously, they have to make the final decision.
Sure.
But that would be appropriate
Yeah,
in this situation.
to recommend that
To
they
make a
examine that.
recommendation, so
absolutely.
that may be something to consider after we consider this particular thing, is just take a minute and add that as a second motion to seek to address those issues raised here.
Can I address the issues? You can approach the podium. I'm allowed to ask you if you want to come up during this period.
Sorry, but you're all making great points. Again, the common theme I'm hearing is parking on the street, safety, there's some congestion there, speed, possibly speed bumps, signage, stop signs, all different suggestions. Those are all controlled by the city today.
Yeah.
Right, so that was all built under city standard guidelines.
Yes.
We connected to Austin because the city wants us to have interconnectivity.
Right.
So that's all derived by the city.
Yes.
The roads are 40 feet wide, which amply provide for parking on both sides and snow pile trucks to go by. That's what they have told us. Public Works has told us in the past. So I don't think we're quite at the problem we have. I realize that somebody they're not paying attention, they run into a car, there's going to be accidents, understand that, and don't want to see that happen. But all of these concerns, again, are controlled by the city. So again, I just want to be clear about that. I also want to point out, as you pointed out, that if we were to put multifamily in replacement of the hotel, we would have twice the traffic that the hotel is going to generate. So
That's what I was going to say. I think the hotel might be the lesser of all.
Yes.
it really is. And so again, I'm not trying to make it, sugarcoat it, but with what could have happened in there under the original plan, we would have seen trips, twice the 3,000 trips here.
Right, it's,
Right, and so, this is really, the project is trending in a way that I think is best for the neighborhood, with more residential, with lower use type, traffic generation type of uses. But again, we've seen an explosion of other uses in the corridor that is, since 2010, that is really, again, it's just another straw on the camel's back, and nothing's being done with those individual projects. So, anyway, just wanted to kind of, again, provide that
Thank you.
history and
I was
perspective.
going to say, the hotel itself will be pretty far off of Windy Grove Drive.
Correct.
So it's actually, so you would have to actually drive into it and out, and that would be very specific traffic, not just general traffic to all the other retail areas, whether it's Home Depot or the other apartments or Outback or whatever is
Right,
there. Okay.
yep,
And let me ask something further. And
Okay.
within your built-up residential area, there is parking within that block of buildings, folks don't have to park on Windy Grove.
correct. And I think some of that is just due to I don't know if every unit's finished at this point, but there was a lot of construction traffic being parked on Windy Grove when that last section was being done. So I know that's added to the congestion there. So anyway, we have parking ordinances that we're providing off-site for all those. And again, if you could restrict parking to just one side of the street. Right, that would probably be a first place to start. Or certainly you can control it on both sides if y'all saw fit, so.
thank you very much.
Yep.
So Steve, when we do this is just a technical question, to make sure I do it right. We have to address this public hearing first, and then we can vote to send a recommendation to city council to look at the existing traffic and speed issues
Yes,
in
ma'am.
that area of town. Okay. I just want to make sure that I had the semantics right. Okay, so is somebody ready to make a motion regarding this change? Thoughts? Somehow I got two agendas.
Well, I'll make the motion, or were you getting ready to?
Well, I was trying to figure out my word.
Go ahead, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, you got it. I would make a recommendation that we submit to town council a request to amend and approve the plan unit development parcel B to allow a motel or hotel to the list of uses that may be made on that parcel.
Someone want a second?
I'll second the motion.
Okay. All in favor of Mr. Airy's motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
And at this time, I would make a second motion that the planning commission recommend to the city council to review the parking issues along Windy Grove and to consider reducing the speed allowed on Windy Grove.
And I would add Rosser to that too. I mean, I would suggest recommending that too. I mean, cars that go through there sometimes at 55, and that's way too fast in a congested area. I know you want to move traffic, but it's not safe. I'd like for us to recommend that.
Let's see, I guess I've made a motion, and I guess the first thing to do is see if there is a second to it. And then you're into a question period, and you're suggesting that we also have them consider the speed on Rosser,
Yes, for a portion of it, not,
or in the area where Windy
Yes.
Grove intersects and Lou DeWitt intersects Rosser?
There through where you turn into Alston Court, through that entire area. Because it turns into 35 anyway, as you
Let me
move.
see if I understand.
Okay.
We talked about Windy Grove,
Mm-hmm.
and then you have Rosser and DeWitt
Right.
that intersect there. Are you talking about also reducing, or consider reducing the speed on Rosser where those two intersections occur?
Yes.
Okay. Will you withdraw your second?
I withdraw my second.
And I will withdraw my motion and restate the motion to include that the city council also review the speed limit on Rosser Road at the intersection of Windy Grove and Lou DeWitt Boulevard. Okay.
Through Alston Court.
Well, that comes, I think that's
Oh,
covered in my
okay.
motion
Yeah.
where
Okay.
it comes up.
Okay.
So we're talking about Windy Grove and that intersection
Moving east.
also. All right? I'll second that.
I'll second that.
Okay, now, I'm sorry. I took charge.
No, that's fine. Everyone
Complicated.
in favor of sending the recommendation to city council per Mr. Aries' amended motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Me too. Motion carries. Okay, now we have a second public hearing. Public hearing request by Rosalind EB1 LLC and RRC6 LLC to rezone a portion of the properties at 2712 West Main Street and 0 Lou DeWitt Boulevard, Waynesboro, Virginia, city tax map numbers 21-1-1 and 21-1-5, currently zoned highway business, to RMF multifamily residential.
Okay, so yes, this application is to rezone a 16.4 acre portion of tax map numbers 21-1-1 and 21-1-5 from HB Highway Business to RMF, which is the residential multifamily. So this property is located very near the intersection of West Main Street and Lou DeWitt Boulevard. It is the area of land behind the new Amazon facility, and it is outlined in the red area right here. So currently, these parcels are zoned for highway business, which allows all the commercial uses and some light industrial ones, and it's meant for those businesses that rely on close proximity to the major transportation routes, and it's also restricted to those areas located along the arterials and highways. The proposed rezoning is for the multifamily residential, and this zone accommodates the higher density multifamily living with attention paid to the existing uses and the character and suitability of the areas that have been designated as such. And in addition to this, also take into account the housing markets and trends of growth to help determine these areas. The RMF zone will allow up to 20 units per acre with a maximum building height of 65 feet, approximately 6 stories. And it'll also permit townhouses at a maximum density of 10 units per acre. This is an exhibit that was provided by the applicant showing the portion of the property to be rezoned. It's that dashed line right here. And this is the area that's shown on all of these maps. Just thought I'd show that to you real quickly. This is a picture of the area in question, taken from Google Earth. It's currently vacant, partially forested. And a quick look at the surrounding uses. To the north, you have, of course, the Amazon facility, you have the Sharp Shopper building, and then Big Lots. West, you have the new Tractor Supply, Augusta Health, and Ollie's. And then to the east, you've got some single-family residential. And you also have a couple multifamily developments right here, sort of to the east and southeast, and then vacant land to the south. This is a look at the current zoning in the area. As you can see, HB is along the Lou DeWitt corridor, along the West Main Street corridor. You also have some RS7 single-family zoning to the east, some RMS zoning directly adjacent to the property, and then you also have some right here behind the commercial areas on West Main, and then RG5 to the south of the property. So the comprehensive plan does designate this area as commercial retail on the comprehensive land use map, which means that it's meant for commercial development of varying scales and types depending on its location. Rezoning it to RMF isn't consistent with the map. However, there are multifamily developments neighboring the property, and there is other multifamily development in a similar position to this property, mainly these multifamily units behind the highway business along West Main Street. This would be sort of a similar situation. The plan does support providing a variety of housing choices in Waynesboro, and it also encourages alternate forms of housing, those that are lower maintenance and might appeal to singles, young professionals, empty nesters, and seniors. So staff does feel that the rezoning would not be inconsistent with the continued development along the Ludewitt corridor in the existing locations of multifamily buildings, as mentioned along Bookerdale and West Main Street. So here's a look at the concept plan that was provided by the applicant. I'll note that this isn't proffered, so the layout is not finalized. It may or may not resemble this. But it is showing about 180 apartments spread out over 8 buildings that range from about 3 to 4 stories. The plan also includes 27 condos, and also shows some retail space in the part of the property that's staying in the HB zone. And this is where the property would be accessed. That would be the main access point to the property right there. As far as infrastructure and city services go, all of the underground utilities and stormwater infrastructure would be reviewed and approved during the site plan review process. There should be adequate water and sewer capacity, but Public Works noted that this would also be reviewed during the site plan review process. And then also the school system does have sufficient capacity to allow for additional residential growth. So staff's main concern with this rezoning was the potential traffic impacts and then also pedestrian safety. The development's main entrance would be on a private access drive that directs traffic from Ludewitt up to West Main Street. And I'll show a map here in just a minute that better illustrates that. And we are anticipating that the development would direct most of its traffic onto Ludewitt. So here's the concept plan overlaid on an aerial, showing slightly farther zoomed out. But as I said, this here is the primary entrance, and this right here is the access road directing traffic to West Main and Ludewitt. So staff did request a traffic impact analysis, and the development was expected to generate approximately 2,020 average daily trips. But the study found that it didn't warrant any additional traffic improvements. Staff did ask VDOT to review the traffic impact analysis, and VDOT agreed, but noted that even small increases in traffic at full build-out could cause potential delays on side streets and potential safety issues. Staff also felt, because of the did feel strongly that the secondary access point was important. And the main problem with that is there isn't a good way to provide at this time a permanent secondary access point, because part of the reason there's not an adjacent property that's already stubbed out. So after discussions with the applicant, they agreed that the entrance to the property would be built in a boulevard style, meaning that the travel lanes would be separated by a median of some kind. And by separating the travel lanes, it's hoped that if one lane should become blocked for some reason, emergency vehicles can still pass in the other lane. This picture on this slide shows an example of this from a development out in Augusta County. Let's see. The second thing we talked to the applicant about was the emergency access point. They showed one that was located behind the Amazon facility, and they provided us with a copy of the deed that ensures that it would remain open and accessible. And the occupant of the building has agreed to that. That was one of the fire department's concerns, was being able to access that emergency access point behind Amazon. And then also discussed the future interparcel connection that would be stubbed out to the adjacent parcel to the south of the property. And this better illustrates all of that. As I said, here's the primary access to the development. Again, the emergency access point is right here, which is behind the Amazon facility. You can access it directly from West Main right here or from Bookerdale. And then this is where they are currently showing, and again, this isn't a finalized site plan, but this is where the future interparcel connection would be provided. And then finally, our other concern was the pedestrian safety. The development has the potential to generate significant pedestrian traffic, and we were concerned about how they would safely reach West Main. There is a smart-scale funded project that will provide pedestrian improvements along the West Main corridor, including sidewalks and crosswalks. And after conversations with the applicant about this, they did say that they would put sidewalks along that private access drive from the development's entrance down to Lou DeWitt and up to West Main Street, so that the pedestrian traffic can safely access that and surrounding amenities. And then finally, staff is recommending approval of the rezoning request. The comprehensive plan encourages a variety of housing choices in Waynesboro, and this development would contribute to that. And then, in addition, the existing multifamily development in this area, it's not a bad fit. There are connections to transit. It offers convenient access to nearby amenities such as shopping and restaurants, so it's not unreasonable to place this development here. And that's all I have for you, and ready for any questions you might have.
Any questions?
Kind of a question and a comment. I had a hard time figuring out what they actually owned. There is a stoplight right across from the shopping center, or right there at the entrance to the shopping center, where the Harbor Freight and the Big Lots is. And I don't know whether, and there's a way, and I guess that's where you also went into Kmart when it was there. And that's a lot safer entrance to this property than if they oriented to that, getting in and out there on Main Street, because that little place they're going, I live in that area, I go to the Exxon and I'll cut down that to get on Lou DeWitt rather than go through the traffic light. And it's a tough road to get out of there, with the shopping center across the way, people coming out and going up and down Lou DeWitt, and it may be that Amazon owns that. But certainly if they could go out to that traffic light, basically at that emergency access, that would be a whole lot safer way to get in and out of there. Now, I understand they haven't really proffered the final plan to you, but, you know, I do have some concern about the that access. You can do it, but it can be tough that they're proposing.
Okay.
And are you able to make a left where they're suggesting the road? Because that would be more difficult. The right, I don't think, is as much of an issue, except for traffic maybe backing up. But I can't remember if there, and I just went by there. I mean,
You can make a left there.
You
Yeah,
can.
you can.
it says not a median, I mean,
No, there's a break in the median there.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a break in the medium, you can, it's just that there's a lot of traffic
yeah.
in that area.
Unfortunately, not
coming-
enough for VDOT to say that there's enough. I mean, we have a set of we have a set of standards, and it didn't trigger anything for VDOT, unfortunately.
I can't believe it didn't trigger a light at that intersection, right?
I was wondering about that too, possibly.
That comes out, and that comes out on the way.
Right.
But then again, this is not the final plan, correct?
That is correct. It has not been proffered.
And I guess what I'm saying is, my recommendation would be for them to really think and see if there's a way they can get out there. I'll tell you, Amazon trucks do not go out that entrance they're talking about. They go to the light. And you go by in the morning and they're just lined up, ready to go. So I guess I'm basically saying, suggest that they consider that. And it may be they can't if they don't own the right-of-way out over the Amazon property.
It's the same owner that owns the entire parcel that the Amazon facility in this portion is located on. But the applicant is also here, Ray, so he can also answer these questions once.
Okay, well, I think we should open the public hearing probably.
Yes.
Hold on, let me get back to my title page. Okay, I would like to open the public hearing on a request by Rockland EB1 LLC and RRC 6 LLC to rezone a portion of the properties at 2712 West Main Street and 0 Ludowit Boulevard, Waynesboro, Virginia, city tax map numbers 21-1-1 and 21-1-5, currently zoned highway business to RMF multifamily residential. If the applicant wants to approach the podium again. Good to see you again.
Time these well. Ray Burkholder, again with Balzer and Associates, 104 Industry Way, Stanton. All good questions. If we could pull the map back up, it might help. So, if I understand you correct, the thought is to try to go out the easternmost point there where the circle is, the emergency access, essentially, and go straight up to the light. So that's a loading dock that you'd have to go through to make that occur. That was an existing dock.
I'm aware of that area very well.
Right, so that's not a primary access that we want to have, people going in and out of there, going where trucks are backing up.
Right.
And trucks would effectively block that when they're loading and offloading. So we do have rights, though, to continue to go through. So just as Amazon's going to the light, if people are going to find the easiest way. So if the easiest way is to get to the light, they can go right through the parking lot and go to that light. Come out of their entrance. That's the boulevard entrance.
I know this area very well. Do you own this part?
No.
Okay. Because that would, if you came through there, you could come back.
Correct.
Because there's a road, I want to say this area. This area.
No, that's the one you're talking about.
Yeah, that area.
Go back to the plat.
Okay.
So Kmart had this cut up in about 5 different parcels, and he does not own all of them that Kmart owned. You can see that parcel actually just right there where in the corner. Yeah. So the parcel actually comes back and goes against the building right here. And then somebody else, Kmart still owns that
Okay,
other
you
parcel.
got this there. That's
Oh, wow.
I was hoping you could.
That's
cover
odd.
that.
Yeah, very.
Yeah, even if they own that,
Wow.
though, again, we're still be going through a loading dock that would potentially block it when trucks are in place. But again, cars can just go right around the driveway. They don't even have to go through the parking lot. It's a drive connection to that stoplight. So in that deed, they had rights to have access. So we still have that network to fan those cars out and separate them. When we looked at it with the traffic study, we didn't even put cars on that. We just had them all go to these two entrances. That was part of our scoping study. So again, this is sort of a worst-case scenario. One of the discussions we're having is trying to come up, these are more of an apartment-style complex, trying to come up with a little bit more of a single-family style type of multifamily unit that would drive down the density and drive down the traffic. So again, that's why this isn't proffered, because we just don't know what we're putting in there yet. We're still waiting to see how the market moves, and everybody's dealing with materials and how we can bring this to market. So,
Yeah, I was going to say, as you come down Bookerdale Road, do you not own any property that really is right at Bookerdale?
No.
Oh,
No.
wow. Because I was thinking you could maybe even move the roadway back a little bit, but
Right.
I guess, okay.
Yeah, and the other thing with Bookerdale, keep in mind, there's a single-lane bridge on Bookerdale, so,
You don't want.
Well, no, but I mean, just to move it, well, when I was.
yeah, we've dealt with the city with the other development, Spring Creek, and that's been issues there
Yeah.
for a decade. You really don't want to send traffic onto Bookerdale because of that single-lane bridge till that gets corrected.
Well, so actually, I didn't really mean quite to Bookerdale, because you're right. I mean, there's
Right.
not even a light there, so you wouldn't want to do that. But how about, does the land abut land that abuts Bookerdale Road? In other words,
Go back to the
that you could,
your aerial.
because I can't, sometimes I have a hard time just,
Yeah, stay there.
So there's West Main, there's,
West Main's there.
there's Bookerdale there.
Yeah.
It's a far way off.
And I'm just thinking, let me see if I. What I'm thinking of is there any way that this can be moved this way to be able to get out by Amazon? In other words,
No,
build it out.
no.
Yeah, we can't. You see the gray box in the corner of Amazon? That's a loading dock. So you've got 70-foot trucks sitting there, so you
No
can't.
matter what you do, okay.
Right. But we've got the emergency access back there. So again, theoretically,
In the
the
event.
the emergency access could shoot right in there, and it's all painted up with fire lanes and signage,
Of
so,
course, the other way you can go out, instead of going to DeWitt, that same roadway goes out to west by the gas station, the Exxon to West Main. A
right,
right-hand turn would not be a problem. A left-hand turn
right.
could be a problem.
Yeah.
Because you're so close to the light there.
Yep,
Okay,
And it builds up.
yep.
well,
You can't.
well, that's an odd spot.
The other thing to keep in mind, get back to the concept, so half the property is in floodplain and stormwater already. So there's a large stormwater basin in those trees that has really not been maintained. So we're going to have to bring that up to new standards through this process, and
Wow.
we'll have a more functioning.
I was gonna say, I thought I saw on the other map, that back in the retail space that ran along that road behind
Yeah,
Amazon.
if you go to the
It's
concept.
like 2 acres in there
Yeah,
that's,
so,
the basin drain.
So we've got a stormwater basin that's this entire.
Yeah.
My guess is that's not their.
Yeah, that's what kind of what I was, yeah.
Existing basin that's in there now, and then we, of course, got the floodplain there to the north, so, yeah, it's a bit challenging. We've been around and around trying to get access. A lot of conversations about this.
What you're showing here is not your plan, it's just a possibility.
It's kind of the highest use that you could put on it to drive the traffic study.
So the real issue here is do we rezone it for residential from what it is now? And then you all have to figure out and come back to the planning commission or to these ladies over here as to how you make it work.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah, and again, it's zoned for highway business, so we could go and put businesses in there today and not do anything at all. So, but again, this is kind of back to the retail question. It's the same thing, right? This has been rezoned since the 80s, I believe.
Yeah.
Right.
The hope is that that property to the left would be developed, and then we'll be able to provide that interconnectivity from there
Right.
to that
From that second.
drive ultimately to Bookerdale, and again, I know there's plans to improve Bookerdale at some point, but,
Right.
so.
Okay.
So with 180 units, you have the possible population of just that development to be what? What are you estimating, 300, 400 people? You know, is it like 2.5 people per family?
Yeah, I think it's
now? So-
dropping. It's like 2 point, with apartment projects, you get a lot of single
Yeah.
family or single person
Yes.
folks that take those. The Windy Grove development, as a comparison, I was really surprised at this. The first section was 234 units, and there were only 7 children from kindergarten to 12th grade in that entire complex.
Wow.
So it's just amazing, either college, a lot of them went to Murphy Deming, or retirees.
Right, right. Well, the reason I'm asking is because at either an emergency situation or high traffic times, leaving for work in the morning.
Right.
I mean, of course, a lot of them will be working across the street, probably at Amazon, but they have a short commute. But the rest of everybody will probably be coming and going at around the same times. And so developing that main access point like you've highlighted right here, either with an additional traffic light, designated left turn, right turn, extra median in the middle, whatever, would have to be in the plan in order for it to flow. There would be too much bottlenecking there, even with your emergency exit. So just as a consideration, when you go back to pencil and paper, that would be a high concern, I think, for us.
Okay. Yeah, we've got some striping, I know, for the private drive that was recommended in the traffic report. So that's all private property, so we would deal with that at site plan stage because we own and control that. The one good thing with Amazon, they're typically staging a little later in the morning. So, most people are leaving 7 to 8 to get to work, get to school. So they are sort of offsetting from that perspective. So it's not hitting it all at the same time. So.
And how much, I'm assuming some of the business that's right there at Kmart will be moving to that humongous building out in Fishersville? Or is that?
I think that's the distribution.
No, that's different, yeah, it's a different operation, yeah. Yeah.
But the big building supplies them.
Yeah, well, that's 20 acres on the roof. That is a humongous building.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to approach the podium? Do we have any emails or anything regarding this?
No comments received on this one.
Okay, then I'm going to close this public hearing. And I'll tell you, I fought hard for that comprehensive plan, and I'm not sure how this fits in here. I was on that steering committee, and it was a freaking lot of work. And I want some more explanation about how this fits in the comprehensive plan. If we're going to have commercial business somewhere, let's have commercial business somewhere.
Yeah.
That's like, I worked so hard on making sure, really trying to think that that comprehensive plan was right. And if we keep going against it, I didn't mean to pound my fist on the table. If we keep going against it, what did we do it for?
Well, in this case, it's the comprehensive land use map as opposed to that plan.
I know, but we
They're
looked
kinda
at that
separate
map,
in their
but I know, but we kind of looked at that map.
Well, it hasn't been updated since 2008.
Yeah, but we looked at it when we did the comprehensive plan.
Okay.
I mean, I agree that the map needs to be updated.
That's the next comprehensive plan update round. We have to include that, I think.
Okay.
Absolutely. But I think to Shannon's comment, could you explain again the thinking on how does this honor that?
So with the comprehensive plan, I mean, we do point out that it is kind of a broad brush
Right.
uses. And
Right.
you say, okay, this area has a lot of, highway business, or it has a lot of retail now, so we're going to brush it with that red
Right.
color. And so I think to Alice Ann's point in the staff report is that now we're seeing a large need for housing and housing at
It's
all
true.
price points.
This is true.
And also that property, farther down the road, how there's the multifamily that sits behind
Right.
that retail, and like, this is not right up on Main
Right,
Street.
right.
And that it does kind of set back, and it's not super visible. So not only is retail struggling, but that location potentially is not as vibrant
Oh,
and
definitely.
standing out as a retail use.
Definitely.
So those are, and there is adjacent multifamily development. So if we do need to see higher density housing and housing at all price points,
This would be a
this
good
is
place
a
for it.
good place.
Okay, well, you've convinced me. I just wanted to make sure.
Let me add something to that, because I have some personal knowledge of that property. We lost a dog we were transporting that went into those woods, so I've been through those woods. And I don't think that's developable very well with Amazon on one side, and you mentioned what do I want to say, lowlands through there.
Stormwater, wetlands,
On the
or
other
whatever.
side, that it sort of is, for any large development, it's not going to work very well, commercial development. So this may be the best use
Yeah,
of that property, especially if you remember the map, it was really developing away from the road.
Right, it's-
And they
it's
did have a
tucked back in
commercial
there.
business, I guess, planned in front.
right.
Commercial is developing along Lou DeWitt, although it's a lower area. I guess it could develop on the east side of Lou DeWitt eventually. And I don't, and again, they're great big, that's a big field there.
It is, it is.
So you could further develop some residential behind lots
Right,
along Lou
right.
DeWitt, or parcels along Lou DeWitt. But this is a tough piece of property.
It is, it's a
really
difficult,
is.
I've walked the property too, it's a difficult piece of property. Any other questions? Comments, anyone?
This one.
Somebody want to make a motion?
Take my glasses off so I can see it. I'll make a motion to submit to city council the recommendation to approve the Roslyn EB1 LLC and the RRC6 LLC to rezone the portion of the properties at 2712 West Main and 0 Lou DeWitt. I thought that was 01 Lou DeWitt. That was
0.
Waynesboro, Virginia, city tax map numbers 21-1-1 and 21-5-5, currently zoned highway business to R-MF multifamily residential with the proffers that were shown that came from staff.
Okay. Someone want a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
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 Nay.
Aye. Motion carries. Okay, we have a review of minor subdivisions approved since June 21st, 2022 meeting.
Okay. So Leslie brought to my attention that we were supposed to be reviewing the minor subdivisions that we've approved since the last meeting date with you all. And we haven't been doing that, so.
Oh, good.
I was just studying the ordinance.
So,
Little late night reading.
so if, so a minor subdivision has been approved by staff since the last meeting, you'll see it
Okay.
going forward. And so, to date, we have only approved 2 minor subdivisions. And the first is for tax map numbers 37-1-4, lots 3 through 9, and this was located on North Bayard Avenue, near its intersection with 4th Street. And what this plat did was consolidate 7 lots into 3, presumably for single-family development. These were vacant lots.
Okay.
Staff approved this, approved and signed the plat on March 4th of this year. The second,
Before you leave,
Sorry?
so basically you're condensing a subdivision rather than,
yes,
Expanding it.
yeah.
yes, that's exactly.
Okay.
Yep. The second minor subdivision was a lot line adjustment for tax map numbers 4-2-1B and 4-2-1. And these parcels are located on Ivy Street, just north of the Anna Marie subdivision. It's kind of hard to see because the way they did this plat, but what they did was they adjusted the property boundary right here. Looked like to me they were just providing some more space around the house and driveway. The lot line was originally very close, and so they basically just sort of brought it out.
Okay.
And this plat was approved and signed by staff on June 16th.
So the dotted line was the original line?
Yes,
And they've extended it outward?
yes,
So that's a boundary line adjustment?
yes. And those are the two minor subdivisions.
Okay. Do we have any other business?
I'd just like to welcome Leslie,
Yes.
Yes.
Welcome.
and hope her time here is
Long,
Yes.
really long.
Very, very long.
Well, I did want to, I guess I'll tell you just briefly a little bit about myself. So I did grow up here in the area. I grew up in Augusta County, went to Fort Defiance High School. I went to Virginia Tech for my undergraduate degree and my master's in urban planning. And then for the last 6 years, I've been with Augusta County in their planning department. So yes, I plan to stay in this area for a very long time with
Oh,
my
good.
Excellent.
Excellent. Okay, so I think we can be done. I think,
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll second that.
everyone in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
We are done.